Good morning, Borida. Welcome to Gentle Pilates. Whew. I had to run downstairs, make sure all the doors were open so we've got proper internet connection, and run back up. I'd forgotten to do it. So that's one of my Monday morning. That's what I have to do. How are we all? I hope the beast from the east isn't making you too cold. Whatever's going on, we've got a lovely session just to greet the week with today, and not a bad day, even though it is a bit cold. So before we get started, what do we need? You can see I've got my mat in an odd position. That's Sam the dog's mat. My mat is actually here. You can't see it at the moment. We have also got towel just to support the back of the head. Okay, so what we want when we're doing our Pilates session is a really nice long neck, and when we're lying on our front or our back, quite often just our alignment means we end up like this if we haven't got enough support, or a little bit like that. So you can use a cushion, a pillow, a bit of clothing. I've got a little towel. I've also got a resistance band just for one of the exercises later on. If you haven't got one, don't worry, you can use a towel or not at all. And then thinking about you. So are you feeling well today? I'm hoping you are, because if you're not, I want you to walk away and do this again. You can access all these videos again at a later date when you do feel well. If you've got any injuries or any conditions we just need to be a little bit careful of, just take it nice and easy. There's certain things that I might have mentioned to you individually, but basically we'll sort of make you aware of them as we go through. But just some movements aren't as appropriate for some as they are for others, and I'll make you aware of them as we do them. So if you're feeling sort of well and raring to go, I'll just pull my socks up. Just make sure you've got a nice sort of area you can work in. I'm hoping you've got your mat or a towel or blanket on the floor, and just ideally the room would be sort of temperate, if that makes sense, because it's not an activity that gets you warm, but we will do a few warming maneuvers before we get started, just in view of the cold. So just make sure you've got enough space around you. And what we're going to do to get started is just a few big body movements. So I'm going to get you just to give me a little bit of a wave. So nice small circles to get started. And what we're going to do then is just gradually build those circles. If you have any pain in your shoulders, I don't want you to increase the circles into pain, but if you just feel your way, basically, don't push into pain, and just as far as you feel comfortable. We're just going to take one more of these, and then we'll just let those arms swing down, and we'll just shake these legs out a little bit. So this is just about warming the body up before we get into our Pilates session, because if it's cold, quite often the movements we do aren't quite enough. Okay, so we're just going to take those feet hip width apart, maybe a little bit wider, and we're just going to let these arms go a little bit now to a little bit of a spine swing. So if we have any bone density issues in the spine or potential, we want to keep this quite small. So you can see I'm minimizing the rotation. But if there's nothing to worry about, you might want to rotate that pelvis a little bit more. You might want to look over that shoulder. Good. We're just going to relax those shoulders. It's also a really nice way of releasing tension. So if you can feel any tension in your shoulders, see if you can just let it flow down those arms and just let it sort of wash out of those fingers. Same with that tailbone. So if we take it a little bit smaller, tend to hold quite a lot of tension in the base of the spine as well. So see if you can just allow that tension almost just to flow out of that tailbone. So we're going to come back to center, just move those feet a little bit. And we'll do one more nice sort of leg movement to get those leg muscles nice and warm. What we're going to do is almost like a little mini squat movement. So we don't have shoes on. We need to keep those heels on the floor. Glue those heels to the floor. Make sure those knees are nice and strong in line with that second toe. We're going to push those arms out. Only going, I'm sort of doing like a mini one. I don't want to go any lower. I don't feel ready for sort of full-on squats, but I'm just going to get these thighs and these glutes, some of the biggest muscles in the body moving, so they will in turn get us nice and warm, ready to go. Good. So again, just do as many as you feel comfortable and really just take that breath in, but push that breath out. And then we're going to roll those shoulders. Might be feeling a little bit like, oh, here we are. And then we're going to just come into this position, feet hip width apart. Really feel for that ground beneath the feet and just start to play with that weight distribution. So take the weight into the balls of the feet, into the heels, and gradually make that movement smaller and smaller till we arrive at that midpoint where your weight feels centered through the middle of those feet. And then we're going to think about our alignments. So first of all, think about shoulders. We're going to squeeze the shoulders up to the ears, and then we're going to slide those shoulders down. And while we're doing this, we can think about where we look, where we hold that sort of head. So if your screen is in a slightly odd position, so that you find that you're maybe looking up or looking down a lot, what you might want to do is just get a feel for the move and then just listen. I'll talk you through everything and just find that fixed point where you can just place your eyes. It's a bit like looking out onto the horizon, and then that will be your optimum alignment for that head and neck. And then we're going to think about just lifting those heels off the floor, not a huge distance, just clearing the floor, coming up onto the balls of the feet. Good. See if you can, when we do this, I tend to get a lot of tension here, tend to really rigidly sort of hold my lower back and my pelvis. See if you can let that just relax. Imagine you've got a big, long, heavy tail, and it's just behind you, helping bring those heels down. See if you can allow that back to lose some of that tension. Good. And then we're going to bring it all the way down. Lovely. Now we're going to see if we can just roll those shoulders up and back this time. And as those shoulders come down, see if you can take a breath out. And as we breathe in, imagine you're breathing into the back, into your shoulder blades. And as you breathe out, just slide those shoulder blades down. And then we're going to just hold those arms nice and steady. And as you breathe in, I'm going to get you to imagine that you're breathing into your armpits. And then just pushing that breath out with that soft breath. And then while we're doing that gentle breathing, we're going to imagine that little bucket of water in the pelvis. And again, see if we can lose that tension. It's really tempting to sort of take your awareness and tense and mechanically do this. And I noticed I've been doing that a little bit. And if we can just allow the tension to disappear, come into that neutral spine. So where we have that bucket of water, we're tipping water out of the front and then the back and making those tipping movements smaller and smaller till we arrive at that midpoint. And when you get to that midpoint, just see if you can let that tension just slide out of that spine. Good. So we now have that lovely long spine, that lengthening from the crown of the head down to the tailbone, and from the tailbone all the way up to the crown of the head. And then we're going to think about that belt-like muscle. So we remember our notches from 1 to 10. So without tensing that lower back, without sort of rigidly fixing, see if you can draw this tummy button. I tend to draw a little bit lower than the tummy button. So that sort of area between the pubic bone and the belly button. See if you can draw it in without tensing that lower back, without tilting that pelvis, as if you were just drawing that tummy button in to do up the top button of your trousers. We sort of talk about tightening your belt 1, 2, or 3 notches tighter, but not 10, because that would be 100%. And then once you're on that belt notch 3, just relax the shoulders, let those arms fall away from the side. We're going to look out onto the horizon and we're going to come into those side bends. So we're lifting that rib cage up and out of that pelvis. So if you had a spirit level across those hip bones, that red dot would be bang in the middle. And as we lift up and over, there's no movement from that red dot. And then we can think about that breathing. See if you can use that breathing to time your movements. So you're not following me, you're actually moving in time with your own breathing patterns. Generally, but not always, breathing out as we move away from center and breathing in as we come back up. Let's take one more on this side. Think about that breathing, and then we're going to come all the way up. And then we're just going to see if we can take a few little hip rolls just to loosen off those hips. So if we were holding ourselves quite rigidly there, sometimes it sort of becomes very tense. So let's just take a few little hip circles, come back to that lovely long spine, and then we're going to think about bringing those fingertips together, sliding those shoulder blades down that back. And this time we've got those headlights on the hip bones, shining on that wall in front of us. Now again, this is the movement that if you have any bone density issues with that spine, we're going to keep this movement very small. So if we imagine moving to 11 o'clock from that 12 o'clock position on a clock face and 1 o'clock, and to be honest with you, even if we don't have any bone density issues, it's unlikely you'll get further than sort of 10 and 2 unless you start to move these hips, if that makes sense. So this is isolating that mid part of the spine. And then we're going to come back to center. Just let those arms swing. Good. And then we're going to relax those arms. We're going to think about picking those heels up again, as if you had that little puppet string in the crown of your head and someone's gently lifting and lowering you. And all that's happening is they're lifting you onto tiptoe. There's no movement around this pelvis, that lower back, beautifully soft, no tension. And we've got that belt just gently pulled in. Just gently move to notch 2 or 3, maybe 4. And then we're going to bring it down. We're going to bring in a little bit of work for these shoulders, but also starting to think about holding this neutral spine with these core muscles. We're going to breathe in and float this arm with that arm leading just to shoulder level and back down. So as this arm raises up, imagine sliding that shoulder blade down. Good. Now I've said to breathe in, but if you're breathing out, that's fine. So we're just going a little bit further each time, not forcing it. Try not to let those ribs pop. So keep that rib pelvis connection. Imagine that steel thread connecting the ribs to the pelvis. There's no movement. And then we'll change sides. Breathing in, breathing out. So we're looking out onto that horizon, drawing in that belt-like muscle, trying to release any tension that's in that lower back, in that lower spine, in that tailbone. And with this last one, either breathing in or breathing out. Good. And then we're going to see if we can just open out that chest. Breathe in this time. Breathe out. Good. And there's a slight softening of those knees as we come down. We're going to take one more of these. We're going to bring these hands down. And then, again, floating those arms up. Breathing in, sliding those shoulder blades down that back. See if you can tuck those shoulder blades into the back pocket of those trousers. Breathing out. Good. So a little bit of whole body movement. Again, if we've got any bone density issues, we're going to keep this movement quite small. So we're going to avoid too much flexion of that back, too much bending of that back. So we're going to bring those arms up. Breathe in and we're going to breathe out. So this is our spine swing. If we've got no issues with that back, we can make it a little bit bigger. Just see if you can draw that tummy button in. We're going to breathe in and we're just going to breathe out. Let those arms sweep past those knees. Release any tension. Let that head relax. Let that face relax. And then again, breathing out, bringing those arms down. Lovely. Okay, my friends. So we're going to see if we can just start to practice that roll down, or should I say, sort of, we're going to start rolling up first. So we're going to see if we can take this squat type position. Now remember this nice, we're not going to sort of arch that back. So keep that nice neutral spine, relaxed spine. And we're going to see if we can just let this head, sort of at an odd angle, and the arms just relax in this position. So as if that chest was resting over those thighs. Now we're going to draw that tummy button in as if we're tightening that belt. We're noticing that your tail, that imaginary tail, is just falling down. It's just between those heels. But the main thing is we tend to look forward with this head. Try and make that head really floppy. And then we're going to just see if we can build ourselves back up by stacking. Starting with the lowest part of that spine, one little segment at a time. Just one at a time. So that head is relaxed, shoulders are relaxed. I've got that little knee bend just to sort of extra protect the spine all the way up. Now you can straighten those legs at the top, and then we're going to go down. We're going to try that again. So breathe in to prepare. Tighten that belt. See if you can stack that spine one little segment at a time. Not rushing it. It can be quicker than me. It can be slower than me. Good. We're going to do one more of these. Good. Now, if you do have that issue with any density, bone density, what we're going to do is we're going to avoid the way down. So we're going to carry on just practicing that. If you've had enough, bring yourself down onto your mat and just find a nice relaxed pose. Otherwise, we're going to see if we can just drop that chin down towards the chest. We're going to tighten the belt and we're lifting that chest. Now imagine that I've placed a beach ball at your feet and we're just rolling over the top of that beach ball. It can be anything. It can be a dog, it can be a cat, but we're just rolling over the top of it. Now you can see I've started to straighten my legs out. You can still keep those bent knees, but all the time we're coming all the way back, drawing that tummy button in, holding that neutral spine. And as that chin drops to the chest, we're just making sure that those arms aren't reaching, that the head's not looking where you're going. We're lifting that chest. Good. Now at the bottom, we're going to breathe in. We're going to breathe out. Make sure you tighten. And we're going to roll all the way up. Good. Okay. So we're going to think about bringing ourselves down onto our mats. Now we can use the roll down, or we can come down onto that mat however you feel comfortable. But what we're going to do is bring ourselves down, and then we're going to walk ourselves out into that 4-point kneeling position, and we're going to find that neutral spine. Then we're going to take 4 or 5 cat stretches. I'm going to change the angle of my camera, and I'll join you down there. Good stuff. Okay, so I'm here. So we've got those knees just underneath those hips, hands underneath the shoulders, chin drawn to the back of the neck. Watch out for these shoulders as you're doing those cat stretches. So draw those shoulders away from the ears. And then we're going to take one more, and we're just going to sit back onto those heels. Now, if this is as far as you'll go, that's fine. Just try and relax those shoulders as much as possible. Okay, just find a relaxed pose. And let's breathe out. Let's breathe out. And then we're going to bring ourselves back into that 4-point kneeling position. I'm quite keen for us to start working on some upper body strength, but almost in a static position. So what we're going to do is hold this position, lengthen through these arms, and then draw those shoulders away from the ears. So we've got that lovely position. So the fingers are pointing forwards. Now take your awareness into that long back. Imagine you're a dog and you've got that tail sticking straight out behind you. And we're looking at this invisible line that's linking the top of the fingertips. So we've got that lovely alignment of the neck as well. Now, we're going to see if we can just practice some abdominal bracing from this position. So remember that belt-like muscle. I want you to imagine we've got that campfire underneath your belly button, and we're just drawing those lower abdominals away from the campfire. Now, for some of us, this might be quite challenging, and this is as far as we go. If you feel comfortable, though, we're going to tuck these toes under. So that's my funny blue heel there. And all we're going to do is we're going to lift those knees a fraction off the mat without moving anything else. So this is core control. There's also a lot of arm strength involved. We're just going to lift those knees and really imagine that campfire burning your belly button and down. We're going to do it one more time. It's not that, okay? It's not that. Imagine I'm just trying to slide a piece of paper underneath your knees. Now, if your knees are here, or if your knees are here, it's not going to have the same effect. They need to be directly underneath you. We're using gravity to really challenge those core muscles. Good. So, and I can see I brought my knees too close, actually. So, there we go. One more time. And then we're going to bring it down. And, just come back into that child's pose position. You can slide those arms forwards, just stretch out those arms and those shoulders. Well done. That was a sneaky little challenge first thing, wasn't it? All right, we're going to roll over onto our backs now. And we're going to just see if we can come down into that position. So the knees are bent. We're going to start with that bridging. I always like, well, we're not starting, are we? We did something different. But I like to bring bridging in quite soon on. So we're going to come back to that lovely alignment. So think about rocking that pelvis. Remember, we're not tensing the bottom. It's very much that rocking pelvis. And then when we find that neutral spine, I want you to see if you can take the tension out of your shoulders, if there is any, and just take the tension out of that tailbone, tighten that belt, and then we're just going to allow those arms to melt into the mat. Now we're looking up towards the ceiling. We're going to see if we can tilt that pelvis, and basically once we're there, we're going to squeeze these bottom muscles and use them to lift the hips and peel that spine away from the mat. Now, you might go half of what you maximally do first. That's okay. Just keep those knees pointing up to the ceiling. And then we're just going to bring it back down, and we're going to press those little segments of the spine one at a time all the way back down. Good. Relax when you get back. So if you felt that your feet needed a little bit of adjustment, if you feel that something's not quite right, if you need to adjust the towel, you can do it now, and then off we go. Good. Now, if we can, we're going to breathe out as we peel that spine going up. At the top, we're going to relax those shoulders, squeeze this bottom, breathe in, and then come all the way back down. Good. So we're aiming for about 6 of these, my friends, and then we're going to hold it statically, maybe a couple more, maybe a couple less. It's all about really listening in to these muscles, so you'll feel the backs of the legs and the bottom muscles here. Now, if you can feel the lower back, you might be doing that.
So you might be pushing up into your ribs. So see if you can find that rib-hip connection. Reconnect, squeeze here, neutral spine, not an arch back, and then all the way back down. So we don't have to go too high. It's not what it looks like. It's not how high we're going. It's about what muscles we're using and how we're feeling. So squeeze. See if you can keep that spirit level across the hips, knees pointing up towards the ceiling. Good. Ooh, help. Okay, so we're going to peel. Excuse the interruption. I'll shut the door in a minute so he can't come in. So we're squeezing up. Now, while the dog's barking, we're going to use that frustrating interruption just to squeeze here. And I'm going to see if you can take one arm and float it only as far as you feel comfortable. We're going to breathe out and we're going to breathe in. Good. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. We're going to breathe out. And we're going to breathe in. Good. Now, are we dropping a little bit? You might need to come out. Good. If you need to come out, just come back to that neutral spine position that we started with. Just carry on with these arm floats. So we're just slowly breathing out. So we're going to do one more either side. Now, if we need to come out of that bridge, come out. And still with that belt connected, still with that centering going on in that core. Good. We're just going to breathe out without popping those ribs and breathe in. Lovely. Good work. Sorry about the dog. He's the loudest dog in the universe. Good. We're just going to bring those knees into the chest. And what you're getting here is that nice little stretch of these glutes. So what we're going to do now is just take the smaller ones on the outside of the bottom. So we're going to take one foot down, slide it out. If you're comfortable, keep it bent. If you're not, we're going to draw this knee into the same shoulder. And then we're going to gently draw this knee towards the opposite shoulder. And just breathe out. Relax into this stretch. You sort of feel it here. So we've got sort of piriformis and those little mini glutes going on. Good. And then we'll bring it back. We'll bring this knee in and take this one away. So what's quite nice about having this straight is you get a bit of a hip flexor stretch at the same time. Good. So for those of us that are doing more computer work than you might be normally, hip flexors get really tight. And actually, so does this piriformis muscle quite often. Good. Once that gets inflamed, it's a really unpleasant sensation. Causes a lot of problems. Now we're going to bring that foot down. Let's come into our hip rolls, chums. We need to relax after the dog barking session. So we're just going to check your alignment. Let those shoulder blades melt into the mat. And we're just going to start nice and easy. So with those knees together, feet together, we're going to come back into our breathing. So as we breathe out, we're going to let those knees gently fall to the side. So at the moment, I'm looking straight up towards the ceiling, just sort of connecting with my belt-like muscle, letting this area control the movement of the knees. And if I feel comfortable, I'm going to let those knees move a little bit further, and I'm going to just turn my head in the opposite direction. So again, feel your way with this one. There's that lovely breath out. And if you feel unstable, you might want to just bring those knees a little bit closer in. Let those arms relax out to the side. So this is a lovely sort of movement for the spine, a mobilizer, stretch. Not really a stretch, but a lovely gentle movement. Okay, so we're going to bring these feet back to a hip width apart. And I'm going to get you to take that little bucket of water type rock with the pelvis till we come at that neutral spine. we're going to do a little bit of work for those abdominals and those core muscles. So if in doubt, bring that spine a little bit closer to the mat, but try just to lose that tension in the tailbone. Relax those arms by your side. I can't quite get my towel right today. I'm going to do that. So we're going to just breathe in and we're going to bring one knee into tabletop. So remember, knee is above that hip bone. If this is too challenging, bring it a little bit closer. If it's not challenging enough, we can bring 2 legs into tabletop. So we're going to balance those glasses of water on that shin bone. Now, first thing we're going to do is see if we can tighten that belt. So bring that belt to notch 3, notch 4, and then breathe out, relax the shoulders. So let those arms melt into the floor. And then we're going to take a toe dip. So if this is single leg, it's going to look like this. We're going to breathe out and in. So we're holding that 90-degree angle at the knee. If we've got 2 legs in tabletop, it's going to look like this. Now we're going to do 8 on the right. We're going to do 8 on the left. So we're breathing out as we move away from center, breathing in to bring it back up. So generally it's harder as we move away. As you move away, what wants to happen? This back wants to sort of arch away from the mat to enable that movement to happen. But we're not going to let it. We want to move this leg independently of anything going on in this trunk. And that is core stability. Okay. So there's times to let that core flow. You don't want it rigid if you're running, but we are really practicing not moving it. And then when we've done 8 on one side, we're going to do 8 on the other. Good. So if you feel that back, you've got double leg and you can't control it, bring that foot down, come back to that strong core, and it might be that you do a few more than 8. And then as you build that strength, then you come to that 2 leg in tabletop. Start with maybe 5 repetitions and build slowly. Good. So when we've done our 8 on both sides, we're going to see if we can just bring one knee and the other knee into that chest. So we're just loosening off that lower back. Take a little mini rolling like a ball movement. So we're just gently, gently rolling that lower spine. And then we're going to bring one foot down and the other. Okay. So what we're going to do next, we're going to see if we can come into that tabletop position, but we're going to challenge those core muscles in a different way. So we're going to relax these shoulders. Again, I like to breathe in and coming into position with control. So again, we're not arching that back to bring those knees into position. Now we've got that little gap. So the knees are hip width apart. We've got those glasses of champagne this time, friends, on our shin bones. So we don't want to spill any. And what we're going to do is just play with that knee movement. So notice what happens if you just gently push those knees away from center. And when I say what happens here? Are we arching that back? Look at those ribs popping. Okay, so bring those ribs back. Can you control it with those knees a little bit further away? I can't, so I'm going to bring them back to hip width apart. Now, what happens when the knees come a little bit closer? You notice the back naturally presses down into that mat. So you can play with that knee position a little bit here to make it more challenging or easier. Now, if you want to make it challenging, you can also straighten out one leg, okay, and just hold that position. Brilliant. Okay, what we're going to do now is find a position where you feel challenged, but it's not impossible. We're going to take some arm circles. So with those palms facing each other, we're going to breathe in, and as we breathe out, we're just going to make some circles overhead with these arms. I'm going to start nice and small, and I'm going to gradually make these circles a little bit bigger. So we're using core control. We're not letting this back arch away from the mat. We're not letting those ribs pop, but we've got a lovely bit of shoulder mobility here as well. You can feel those muscles having to stabilize you in the trunk. Good. Breathing out. And you can take those circles bigger if you like. You can keep them smaller. You can take those knees further away. You can make that leg challenge you a little bit more. We're going to take one more. And then hug those knees in. Woo! Right, I'm ready for something a bit different. Don't know about you. So let's take that foot down, take the other foot down. We're going to see if we can bring ourselves onto our side. Okay, so fortunately, yeah, looks like there's no dog around. So we're just going to take that 90-degree angle at the knee. So while we're getting into position, sometimes we tend to be here. That's quite common, or here. So if you could get that 90-degree angle, but make sure the heels are in line with that tailbone. The other thing that's quite common is to arch the back at this point. So again, find that lovely neutral spine and see if you can just, again, let that tension just flow out of the tailbone. We're going to use this towel for a little bit of support if you need it, just on that arm. Good stuff. Now, what we're going to do this week, we're going to do some clams. And again, go easy with this if there's any issues sort of in that pelvic area. But again, we can do the movement, but just reduce the intensity. I'm going to just do that. So with that little orange between your chin and the chest, we're going to tighten that belt. And then we're going to open and just gently close that knee. So we're almost rotating on that heel. And you can feel this ball and socket joint here. It's just rotating. So the ball in the socket, which is the hip joint, is just rotating out. And you'll feel that movement here. So we're doing a little bit of work for these muscles here. We're breathing out and we're breathing in. So with this shoulder, just try and slide that shoulder blade down the back. Keep that chest nice and open. Okay, shoulders in line with that hip bone here. And if I had a G clamp, I always remember the G clamps from woodwork. Just imagine I've G clamped this hip into place. So there's no rolling backwards. There's no movement here. We're still drawing that belt-like muscle in, and we're just contracting these muscles here. Good. So if these are nice and strong, they really help support the knee joint. They stabilize the pelvis, which then helps stabilize. Good. Okay, so there's about 10 of those. What we're going to do is just bring that hip back down. We're going to slide this arm forwards, ready for our open doors. And this is for chest flexibility. So pop that towel underneath that head so we maintain that lovely alignment. Keep that little orange between your chin and your chest. Tighten that belt. Now remember my G clamp because that's still there. We're going to open out this chest and follow that hand. We're going to breathe out. And as we come back, we're going to breathe in. Good. So I'm just adjusting my toe. Don't be frightened to adjust once you started, because if you start and it feels wrong, 9 times out of 10, you just moving, sometimes it's a half a centimeter and you're like, oh, that's better. That's right. It's got to feel right. Trust your instincts. And trusting your instincts with these online classes is more important than ever, because quite often, even if we're on a Zoom type class, it's quite difficult to see everyone at the same time as you being able to see me. Good. So we're really thinking about how this feels. Where are you feeling this? Ideally, you're feeling this here, chest, front of the shoulder. It feels positive. If it's not feeling comfortable, think about where it's not feeling comfortable. How can we do something about that? And then we're going to straighten out these legs and we're going to bring ourselves onto our fronts. So we're going to do a little bit of work now on the lower back, and we need to keep this bottom nice and tense. When I say tense, we're going to use the bottom muscles as well as the lower back muscles. So we got those feet hip width apart. We still want to relax those shoulders. So we're going to bring those shoulders nice and gently away from the ears. We've got those palms just facing the floor, and you probably, not absolutely must, but you might find it more comfortable to have something underneath that forehead to make sure we've got that lovely long neck. Now relax the shoulders. Just practice this abdominal bracing. So imagine you're lying on that bed of hot coals. It's absolutely roasting and you need to draw that belly button away from it just to stop it burning your belly. So just practice that. And then bring in your breathing. So breathe in, and as you breathe out, just practice drawing those abdominals away from the mat without tensing that bottom, without sort of tilting that pelvis. Just practice holding that lovely, soft but static position while really drawing in. You can bring in a bit of pelvic floor if that helps. And then when you feel ready, on that next breath out, we are just going to lift this chest, tense those bottom muscles. Those feet stay on the floor, but we're almost pushing those toes to the wall behind you, breathing out and breathing in. Now, I just got cramp in my toes. If that happens, just take your toes underneath you. Okay, so breathing out, shoulders relaxed, and we're just working those lower back muscles. Now, if you want to make this more challenging, we can actually bring these hands by your side, and we're just going to reach for the outside of those ankles, draw those shoulder blades down as you come down. Good. A little bit more challenging again as we start with those palms facing the ceiling, and as we lift, we're going to rotate those shoulders backwards so the palms turn towards your thighs. So I'll show you that one. And again, we're doing somewhere between about 8 and 10 of these. Breathing out, breathing in. Lifting that chest. Hip bones staying in contact with the mat. Feet comfortably down, not lifting those feet up. Tensing those bottom muscles. Drawing, reaching for the outside of those feet with the fingertips if your hands are by your side. Looking down, and then we're going to release. Good. See if you can bring these hands back up, and in that lovely relaxed position now, we're going to see if we can work these bottom muscles and the lower back again. We're going to go into swimming legs. So with that nice long leg, we're going to see if we can squeeze that bottom, lengthen that leg away from center. So as if you're reaching for that wall behind you, we're going to squeeze and control it down. Good. We're breathing out. We're breathing in. Lovely. So all the while, we've got that tummy button drawn away from the mat. I'm going to talk to the camera rather than do it. Tummy buttons drawn away from the back. Shoulders relaxed, okay? We are sort of straightening out the leg, the movement from the hip rather from the knee. So try and keep that knee nice and straight. And then we're going to change sides. Good. So about 8 and 10 on one leg. Now, if you prefer, you can use those hands to support the front of the head, or just leave that towel there. Good. So you notice these hip bones stay in contact with the mat. So we're not lifting like this. Okay, that is exaggerated, but it's tempting to do. Squeeze, lengthening. Don't forget to breathe. And then when we've done our 8 to 10 on each side, we're going to bring these hands just either side of the chest, And we're going to see if we can push you up, come into that lovely relaxed child's pose position. If you're not comfortable with those arms stretched out, we can actually just bring them in here. Okay, so that lovely relaxed position. And we're going to breathe in. We're going to breathe out. Allow that imaginary tail just to rest on the floor next to your heels, between them. And then we're going to think about walking these hands up, and we're going to just see if we can bring ourselves into a seated position. So I'm going to shuffle along a little bit. Now, we can, with this seated position, sit nice and tall. We can just leave these knees bent for now. If you need a little bit of height, if you find you sort of sit like this, usually it's because these are quite tight here. So you can sit on your towel or roll your mat up a little bit so that we can find that lovely distance between the ribs and the pelvis. Now, once we sat up nice and tall, what we're going to do is just relax these hands either side. So slide those shoulders away from the ears. We're going to draw that tummy button in, and we're going to take that nice mermaid stretch. So we're going to breathe out, and we're just softening this elbow as we breathe out. Breathing in, shoulders relax, spine lengthen. Good. Breathing out and breathing in. Good. I'm going to come back a little bit because I feel like you can't really see me. Breathing out. See if you can really relax into this lovely stretch. I really like this one. Quite often to be seen just stopping everything in the day and doing this standing or sitting. Of course, if you're doing it from cold, you need to be really, really gentle as you start. And then we're going to roll those shoulders up, slide them down. Now, only if you feel comfortable doing this. We're going to take those feet out into that straddle position. Remember that nice long spine. And we're going to just see if we can open out that chest, squeeze those shoulder blades together, and then bring those arms in. Now I'm going to bring them down. We're going to zip up. So remember that pelvic floor lift. So we're going to draw that lift up to the first floor. This time those palms are down. We're going to open. Good. And we're going to bring it back. So I like to think about breathing in as we do this. So those elbows are sort of slightly lower than the shoulders. We're gently squeezing those shoulder blades together. Remember that pelvic floor lift. Good. We're breathing in and relaxing those shoulders. Now we're going to gently pull this arm one way, come back to center. We're going to pull this arm this way, come back to center. So again, bone density issues, it's going to be tiny. Okay, if you feel comfortable keeping that chin in line with the chest, we can just pull that arm a little bit further. And then we're going to come back, slide those arms down, bring those feet in, stretch out those hip flexors. And we're going to see, now we did the cams, my towel was this side, so now I'm going to place it that side and put my feet this way. Okay, so starting off, you might want that towel underneath the head just to give you that nice long neck, so we're not sort of like this. And we're going to make sure we got that 90-degree angle at the knee, and those heels are in line with that tailbone. Oh, I got the wrong one. Oh, sorry, chums. It is Monday. Okay, so I'm going to draw that tummy away from the mat and just relax this shoulder, and then opening. And so when we're coming, it's so tempting to sort of and just let it fall, and let it fall. So see if you can control that way back down. So we're lengthening this muscle, or these muscles under control. So we're shortening them, and then we're the little ones. So we're just lengthening them. There's some resistance there, and it really, really helps build that strength. Good. So find that flow. We've not really talked about flow. We're going to see if we can almost move in a circle. So even though we're not creating a circle, if you think about a circle having no beginning and no end, there's just constant movement. So as we reach the top of the move, we're just going to gently start to come back to the bottom of the move or the start of the move. And this works really well as we move into our open door. So think about that cycle or that circle of movement. So relax those shoulders away from the ears. Just tighten that belt. And think about breathing out just till you find that point of tension. And then breathing in. And as you bring this flow in, this move takes on a whole new meaning. And then we're going to come back. And this time, we're going to just gently bring ourselves onto our backs. So knees bent if you can, just to avoid that sort of, when your legs are straight, your back tends to arch. So if you do have any issues, coming onto your back with straight legs can be really, really quite tough. So what we're going to do now is we're going to see if we can challenge these abdominals a little bit more. I'm going to challenge them a little bit more, but we're also going to work on hip mobility. So do you remember we talked about that band earlier? Seem to be slightly awry on this mat for you. How's that? Okay, so we're going to see if we can loop our band or our towel over our foot. I sort of tend to do it with the front part of the foot, but don't worry too much about where it is. We could spend ages. Now what we're going to do is just see if we can straighten out that leg. And if we try and take that leg and it's like this, I want you to take the knee away from the body till you can straighten out that leg a little bit more. We're going to see if we can point that toe as we're doing it. So just find that point. It could be here. Okay. Now it might help you just to do that a little bit if you find that you're not very flexible here. Now what we're going to do first of all is just going to take a little flex and then a point. Okay, so flex and then a point. Really nice for a bit of calf flexibility, a little bit of ankle strength. So why not, eh? Good. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just gently point that toe towards the ceiling. Imagine I put a pencil in your big toe and we're going to draw some circles. Now, this band can be used to guide it, or if you feel strong enough, you're going to use just the leg and the band's going to provide resistance. Okay, so slightly different. So you can use the band to help you, or we can just hold that band, keeping those shoulders nice and relaxed, and we're going to draw those circles, nice and controlled. So we're going to imagine that spirit level over your hip bones with that red dot in the middle. We're going to imagine we put that glass of water on that knee. Now remember, you can do this with straight leg if you want to challenge a bit more. We're going to do 5 clockwise and 5 anti-clockwise. So we don't need to make this circle any bigger than sort of 12 inches in diameter or 16 inches probably maximum. It doesn't have to be a massive circle. Good. It can be a really small circle, particularly if you've got any hip issues. It's a really nice way of getting some core control and mobilizing that hip and working on some hamstring, back of the thigh flexibility and a bit of calf. Okay, so now what we're going to do is flex that foot. We're going to take the opposite arm across and we're going to gently let this leg fall away from center. So we're working on a little bit of inner thigh flexibility. So I've decided to straighten out my leg, the supporting one. So you can feel that stretch, and then we're going to just help it across. Now this time, I'm going to take my other arm and we're going to let this leg gently fall across the body, just to that point of tension. Try not to push it into pain. It's not comfortable. It is not comfortable. We're sort of stretching the outside of this leg, but don't go too far with it. Breathe out and then come back to center. We're going to bend that knee and we're going to change sides. Good stuff. Good stuff. While you're changing sides, I better keep an eye on the time. Yes. Okay, we're cooking on gas, my friends. So we're going to just straighten out that leg again. Find that point of tension. So some of you may be really comfortable doing it straight leg. Some of you may prefer that support for the lower back. So once we've got that position, you think, yeah, that's as far as I can go with that straight leg. We're going to flex and point. Good. Flex and point. Lovely. Good. Flex and point. And then when you feel ready, we're going to see if we can draw those circles. So again, either allowing that band to guide you or using that resistance to work against. Breathing out as you move away from center. Remember that belt notch 3 or 4. Remember that spirit level across your hip bones. Sometimes it helps to imagine headlights on the hip bones now, and they're shining on the ceiling. 5 clockwise, 5 anti-clockwise. So, and you want to keep those headlights from wobbling side to side or making circles themselves. So it's literally like the clam, this ball and socket joint. And the ball is rotating inside that socket. Good. Wonderful. Nice and smooth, those perfect circles. And then we're going to flex that foot again. Doesn't matter which arm really. I like to take the opposite arm for balance. And just feel that lovely stretch. Good. Try and keep both hip bones on the floor. Try not to tense up. Breathe out. And then we're going to breathe in. Such a great way to start a Monday, isn't it? It's just when you finish this, well, I don't know about you, but when I finish this session with you, just feel ready, relaxed, but really ready for anything. So sort of energized in a very sort of lovely way. Okay, so we're going to take that band off there now. Little bit more core control, if that makes sense. So we're going to just make sure we got that neutral spine. And what we're going to do is come into that tabletop position again. Now, you might prefer one leg, you might be comfortable with 2 legs. And we're going to, just because some of us are doing one leg, we're going to take our single leg stretch and need my towel. Thank you very much. We're going to take that single leg stretch. So we're lengthening that leg away from center. We're breathing out and we're breathing in. Good. We're breathing out. Now, the higher that foot is, slightly less challenging. So that is going to be less challenging on these core muscles to stop the back arching than that. Good. Again, another challenge. If we float these arms up towards the ceiling, that arm float, like we were doing earlier, breathing out. So at the moment, I've got same arm, same leg. You could challenge opposite arm, opposite leg. So we're going to do 8 to 10 on this leg, 8 to 10 on the other leg. So I'm actually going to take this leg now. I'm going to do the next set, single leg. So we're breathing out, breathing in. Good. If we want to make it more challenging, breathing out and in. Good. And again, we can take that opposite arm float. Good. Looking up towards the ceiling. You can take a double arm float. And all the while, thinking about that neutral spine, belt tightened. And then when we're ready, we're going to bring it down. We're going to see We can just bring those feet together, knees together. We're going to go back to those hip rolls for a moment. Now you may feel comfortable having both knees in tabletop again, knees together, feet together, and using a little bit more belt-like control required, just to keep those shoulder blades melting into the mat. Good. Okay, I'm just going to hug those knees in. We're going to take one foot down and the other. So we're almost at an end, my friends. And what we're going to do is bring ourselves onto our front. We're going to do just a couple of upper back exercises, stretch out these hip flexors, and then we're almost done. So please, by all means, stay with me because I haven't split it today. I think I've added little challenges as we've gone on, but I've made it sort of generally suitable for everyone. Now we're going to just let that head rest on the mat. Again, make sure you've got that lovely long neck and bring those elbows ever so slightly below the shoulders. So what we don't want is this. We want to slide those shoulder blades down the mat. Now what we're going to be doing is just lifting those forearms away from the mat, leaving that forehead on the mat. So we're going to be squeezing. So relax the bottom this time. This needs to be like jelly. We still want that neutral spine and we still want you drawing that tummy button away from the mat. So this is where it's really important to not tense the bottom and sort of shift that pelvis when we're doing this. So see if you can just use those inner core muscles, draw in, and we're going to just see if we can squeeze. Breathing out, breathing in. Good. Squeeze. We're looking to do, again, 8 to 10 of these. And then when we've done that, we're going to bring these arms just next to that chest and we're going to just push up into that kneeling position. Let's take that cat stretch. So we're going to lengthen through those arms, drop that chin to the chest, tilt that pelvis. So we're pushing that imaginary tail through the knees, drawing that spine, and then coming back. Now we're going to walk these hands a little bit closer to the knee. We're going to see if we can take one foot in front of you, slide it forwards. So we want the knee and the foot. We still want those feet hip width apart, if that makes sense. We're going to let this chest just rest on the thigh for now. And then just relax here. So this is where we're looking for that hip flexor stretch. Now, only if you think you feel that you can, we're going to lift the chest. You can hold onto that thigh, use it for support if you need, lift that chest, try not to arch the back, and we'll feel this stretch here. Now, if we can, we're going to see if we can take these hands and just gently turn towards that bent knee, so the supporting leg. Just brings in a little bit more of that hip flexor. We're going to come back and then just relax that chest over the thighs, slide this foot back. We'll do the same on the other side. Good. So starting off, hips, shoulders square onto these feet. We're just feeling that stretch to get started. Just see how you go with this one, because sometimes we're just feel a little bit stiffer. We're not as loose as we'd like to be. And so we just need to take those stretches a little bit easier. But if we can, we're going to lift that chest, shoulders relaxed. We're looking straight ahead. And I'm just going to see if I can just gently turn, good, towards this supporting leg. Lovely. Come back. Let that chest relax. Lean this foot back. We're going to come into our child's pose. We can slide those hands forwards. We can relax those elbows back. Whatever suits you, my friends. And we're going to breathe out. Good. So we're going to see if we can come back up to that standing position. We can use the roll up that we practiced in the first place as we were getting down onto our mat, or an alternative for getting up if you're not comfortable using that movement would be to take that foot here and then tuck this toe under, bring yourself up using that way. But I'm going to see if I can just tuck my toes under. I'm just going to see if I can push my bottom up towards the ceiling, and then I'm going to walk my hands towards my toes. Remember that head is relaxed. Tighten that belt, push those heels down into the floor, and then we're going to stack one little segment of the spine on top of the other at a time. And then a no head view. The best way, that's what the kids say anyway. All right. So we're back. Once we've come back up, it's quite interesting when you're coming up out, you quite often find people sort of do this big roll of the shoulders as you come up here and down. Actually, just imagine sliding those shoulders, just let the shoulder blades just slide into position without sort of forcing it, and they'll just fall down. The shoulders will fall away from the ears. Now, we'll just move those feet into a comfortable position. And we're going to think about bringing those hands over that core area. So this is our core area. We're going to relax the shoulders. And from this core area, we're going to take a lovely breath in. And as we breathe out, we're going to allow those hands just to come back to that center. We're going to feel the feet on the floor. Breathe in, and as we breathe in, we can breathe all the way down into the base of those lungs, back to the center. Shoulders soft, neck is soft. I'm going to take breath in, breath out. You can make those circles a little bit bigger, smaller. And then we're just going to relax those arms, shake out those feet a little bit. Well done, my friends. Lovely. I enjoyed it. I just hope you did. Thank you for joining me. Lovely way to start this week. And the days are lighter. Everything's looking up, chums, isn't it? So if you enjoyed this, feel free to go back into it at any time it's available, or if you preferred another session, have a little look. And I'm just reading the note here. You can see I haven't got my glasses on, so I have to get really close. Oh, Rosie Partridge. I did have a fab day on Saturday. All the better for seeing you and your lovely family. So we just happened to bump into each other on the beach. So Pop It Sans rocks, doesn't it? Anyway, chums, I shall stop talking and let you get on with your day. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.